And I yelled he could do the moves of the cutter. I wanted to make sure he could do like a dressage horse, and I wanted to make sure he could show off a bit, because people love it when they show off a bit, and it's easier to get off this way. And we had flyaway spin out of the blue. People say, Guy, have you ever wanted to do dressage? I said, yes, but just not enough to wear joggers. Heart's still beating. I haven't been told off for ages, not since this morning with Emily. So now that I'm on Spin Abbey, I'm going to ask him to go in a bridle and saddle and to go to Lexington with my hands. And I like to ride the Australian stockman. Actually, he rides a little bit more like a dressage rider than a Western rider. He'll ride along with one hand on the two reins. We actually bridge our reins in Australia. And the reason for that is that we can be in control with that one hand all the time. Very often you'll see an Australian stockman riding along, and he'll be working the back of the head with his stock whip like this. He might have to turn his horse over his hocks and come back over here. And he'll have that little bit of a rein on his horse's mouth, because then he might have to go from there to galloping through the timber. He might be at a flat gallop and have to do flying changes and all that sort of thing. But I'll collect this little gelding up and show you that he's fairly neat. We can ask him to do a complete canter circle sideways to the left. I should be able to do a flying change and take him back the other way. And though I have my leg on him, when he lifts up in the air, I take my leg up a little and then I push him sideways again. So it's more of a pulsing leg, I suppose, than just a solid leg. We're going to ask him from around, so he can do those kinds of things. We can ride him forwards here on the left leg. We'll fly to the right, fly to the left, fly to the right. Good. Now I want to show you, we just put hope in the middle, hope. Good boy. We'll put hope in the middle because I want to show you what the Australian stock horse is known for. And he's known to be able to, he's called the breed for every need in Australia, and he's already shown you that a little bit. We'll show you that he's got the ability to get stopped and turned. This arena has been absolutely wonderful, but it can be a little bit deep, but this little fella's going to work pretty neat for you here. And Emily, you better come and show, because I can tell you that this horse can work a cow, but we really should see just how. I'll ask Hope to pick up both front feet and to lay down here for me. Hope is the oldest of my team, as a 10-year-old, and he's been around for ever since he was a 2-year-old. He's been doing these kinds of things, and he had seen his father do what I'm about to do, and he'd worked with his dad, and then he was the oldest that had done it, and now Sequel and Pride and Spin Abbey will do it. But he was the very first horse that I was ever able to side pass completely over the top of. Now, I'm just going to tell you that as far as I believe, this is nowhere near as good as dressage, and I'm just learning, but this is just horsemanship. Dressage, Western pleasure, reining, it's all horsemanship. And the best dressage horses in the world, they think it is their idea to do those flying changes. They think if I get off the leg and change both my front and hind, that I will be left alone. Hope thinks is laying underneath here with his head in what is called a dangerous position is a good place. He says if I sit up, I can't run like that, and that's neat because running's hard work. I'll clap you, mate. Now, as these horses are travelling around to the left, what I have all in common with these three horses is we have control over direction. All of the three of them are travelling to the left. At the moment we have a connection in speed. All three of them are trotting. Now I want to get all three to canter, so I'm going to throw that energy out there. For any reason, ladies and gentlemen, if any of these jump out, just do me a favour and chuck them back in. Right, stop trying to get on the outside, you're going to jump out the boards. What we'll do is put a change of direction on these horses. That's called an inside turn. Very nice. Now I'm going to pull up. In all my training, when I stop, I say you're allowed to stop. Pick a place. what we've done here is we've made now it's pretty much like training cones. These, ladies and gentlemen, are the most expensive training cones in the world. And I had to bring them, cost me a fortune to bring them from Australia. But I'm going to canter between A and B and do a flying change. Canter between B and C. Oh, this one's broken. So these training cones are good because you don't have to get off and move them. You can just bump into them a bit and they go back to their spot. Now we can go all the way to the edge of this arena. We can canter sideways through A and B. Canter forward. And sideways here. Oh, one's broken. We have to go and catch it. So now we'll get that one facing that direction. We might see, or he's not real right either. Push him over here, leave it there, and then, so now what we can do is, in the stock horse classes in Australia, they have to work in and out of cones like this, so we can do that. Very good. Let's do that a little bit more like a box. And then what we'll do, see if we can spin him in the box. So, a couple of things I need to do is I need to think very skinny thoughts because there's not much room. So now I'm going to canter. I'm actually going to gallop to that spot. One of you is going to have to move. One of you will have to move. If any of you will have to move. Oh, Sequel's going to move. Excellent. Good. So, what I can do now is there's enough room to canter sideways if the others get out of the way. Very good, well done, fellas. So I'm going to give him a good cue here, and I will be tough on him because he's the dominant horse in the herd, and if I don't, he'll just ignore me. So, yes, they're looking at you, but it didn't pressure you that much. He goes, did you see him? He tapped me on the leg. Someone call Peter. Very good. So, there's enough room for me to canter through this gap here. Do a flying change there. There's enough room for me to canter through that walk through there. And now this time I'm going to canter. And then I'll say there's no room to canter, so we just go sideways over this one. That's a little mare, and the mares find it more difficult, but not my pride. Now, I'm going to see if we can get all three to do the same things. Horse, if he was a human being, he would be an extreme athlete. He'd have sponsors coming out from everywhere, and he'd have probably 5 or 6 girlfriends in a Ferrari. He's just a brilliant individual. And little Pride, have a look at her as she stands there with her blonde tips in her mane and her blonde tips in her tail and her stockings on. If she was a human, she would be a blonde secretary. She's very, very beautiful and not very, very clever. But I love you, darling. I do love you. And she's getting better all the time. Pride. That's it. Look, she has to go over to the water fountain with the other fellas and talk. Don't side pass over his head. You know he doesn't like that. So what we've done is we've got one over the top of one, and I've obviously desensitised you to this because no one claps. So what I'm going to do is get 2 over the top of one, and put 3 over the top of one. Pride. Very good. Pride says, I only want to go halfway. It's not important. See, Spinner, you're standing on my wheel. This is foot control for you. Anyone got another whip? Very good. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because it was my plan at the end of this to see if I could get, because all of the best entertainers in the world, their major goal, all the best horsemen, their major goal is to get a refined and finished horse. All the best entertainers, their major goal is to get a standing ovation. And to earn that, I'm going to stand on the back of my 2 horses.